big news.
I'm listening. What do you got?
Critics and parents agree. Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, is hilarious, action-packed, and fun for the whole family.
How do you like me now?
That's what I'm talking about.
Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, rated PG, now streaming on Paramount+.
Hi, this is Liberty and DeVitto on the My Weekly Mixtape show with Brian Colburn. Brian, you and me did a great job on all these Billy Joel songs, man. I hope that people go and listen and make a mixtape of their own of Billy stuff.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. When I started creating mixtapes growing up, one of the artists I made the most mixtapes of was Billy Joel. I made the Dream Concert setlist mixtapes, the Mellow Songs mixtapes, the Bombastic Tunes mixtapes, even the 70s output and the 80s output. I'm hearing a Step Brothers reference in there somewhere. And yes, I even made a Billy Joel mixtape of all the songs from Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2, but from the original albums, because the original cassette that I had all the radio edits, and I needed the real thing. But none of those mixtapes will compare to the one that I am making tonight, because tonight, one of the amazing musicians who played on these albums is joining me to collaborate on what I feel will be the ultimate Billy Joel mixtape, and that is the one and only Liberty DeVitto, one of my favorite drummers on the planet. Liberty, thank you so much for joining me on My Weekly Mixtape.
Well, Brian, let me tell you something. This is very difficult. Very difficult to make. You know, I recorded 150 tunes with Billy or however many, and you expect me to pick 20 of them? It's insane.
We are going to try to narrow it down as best as we possibly can, and I know that's no easy task.
Now, let me ask you this question. Is it like I'm going to sit here with somebody who doesn't like Billy Joel and knows nothing about him, and I'm going to try to impress this person? Is that the kind of thing we're doing? Or is it like my favorite tunes, your favorite tunes?
The beauty of how this unfolds is we're going to be picking songs together and kind of bouncing off of the vibe that is unfolding between us bringing up these tunes. So we're going to tell a story through our conversation tonight and build the playlist out together.
So in other words, this is like Seinfeld. This list is about nothing right now. We have to make it into something.
That is exactly right.
Okay.
Now, my first question for you, Liberty.
Yes.
The word mixtape, does that have any meaning to you? And if so, what is that meaning?
I used to make mixtapes with cassettes when we were on the road, like in the 70s into the 80s, because we always used to bring our own little portable tape recorders and stuff, you know, boom boxes in the room and stuff like that to listen to music. And I used to make mixtapes of a lot of things, you know, with records onto the tape. Billy had bought me a Nakamichi machine for Christmas one year.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really nice. And they used to make mixtapes on that. I sucked at it, but I mean, I had fun.
Bet they sounded absolutely fantastic. So for me tonight, when I was trying to put together the songs that I kind of wanted to talk about, like you said, Liberty, there's 150 Billy Joel songs.
Yeah.
And there's not many that I don't like. So for me, I'm going to kind of go based off of however this mixtape unfolds and kind of see where musically the songs kind of unfold for me. Now, for you being the man that played on all of these songs, how hard was it just to narrow down some that you felt kind of rose to the top for you being one of those musicians?
Well, I looked at it as, first of all, like I said before, I was looking at it like I need to impress somebody that doesn't really care much for Billy Joel. And then I thought, well, I need to play things that I think I played well, you know, that I play good on. And then I had to go with the ones that I like, too, you know, ones I like. Because there's Billy Joel songs I don't like. You know, I mean, My Life isn't on my list. No.
Wow.
So that's why I tried to put this together. Yeah.
Well, let's get down to business. Tonight, as I mentioned earlier, Liberty and I will be curating a Songs of Billy Joel mixtape, and we'll use the old cassette deck approach, meaning our mixtape will be broken up into two sides, Side A and Side B. Liberty, as the special guest, will begin Side A with his first song choice, and then I'll add a song that I feel best follows up his choice. We'll then flip-flop choosing songs until we've mapped out the 10 songs for Side A. We'll then give our mixtape a proverbial flip, and then we'll map out Side B, only this time I'll kick the side off with Liberty choosing second. Our overall goal for the episode is to craft the best Billy Joel mixtape possible through only 20 songs. At the end of the show, you can take our conversation to the next level by visiting the Songs of Billy Joel page at myweeklymixtape.com and give our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. Finally, if you like what you're hearing on the show, please consider becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. And before we press the record button on this mixtape, some of the fellow mixtapers chimed in with songs they feel would best kick off a Billy Joel mixtape, and I want to share some of them now so we have some food for thought going into the discussion. Patreon mixtaper David Owens chimed in with You May Be Right. Cactus Pete chimed in with I Go to Extremes, and Ben from the Too Vague podcast chimed in with Pressure. Elsewhere on social media, Alex Alt, Jim Bricker, and Jay Hall from the Okie Bookcast all chimed in with Prelude, Angry Young Man, with Alex's being the live Russia concert version and the others being the studio version. Michael Grosvenor chimed in with Sleeping with the Television On for studio recordings, and Allentown from Nassau Coliseum in 1982 in terms of live recordings. J&K at the F My Work Life podcast chimed in with Captain Jack. Justin Fortune chimed in with The Entertainer. Jason Whistle from the It's Not That Bad and There Can Only Be One podcasts chimed in with Pressure. Hector Contreras broke it out by decades, agreeing with Alex Alt and Jay Hall with the Prelude Angry Young Man for the 70s, and then he went with Running on Ice for the 80s. Stuart H. chimed in with Only the Good Die Young. Sean Faust, Uncle Ron, Dave Shiner, and Melissa Boylo all chimed in with Miami 2017, Seen the Lights Go Out on Broadway, with Melissa's being the Songs in the Attic live version. Chris Darling and Chael both chimed in with Big Shot. Jeff Scoble chimed in with All for Lena. Michael Citro from Michael's Record Collection chimed in with Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. And finally, Claude P., Mike Andrews, and the Latin Jukebox all chimed in with Piano Man.
Okay.
With 12 studio albums, and you can make that 13 if you take into account the Fantasies and Delusions classical release, along with the many amazing live releases and soundtrack contributions, there is no shortage of music to choose from tonight. So, Liberty, I'm officially going to press the record button on this mixtape and turn the mic over to you. What song are you choosing to kick off our ultimate Songs of Billy Joel mixtape with, and why are you choosing it?
I Go to Extremes because I just want to punch the person right in the face.
Awesome. With Patreon mixtaper Cactus Pete calling it. Absolutely fantastic tune.
I want to start with a big bang, and I think that one does it.
That certainly does. That is one of my favorite Billy Joel songs of all time. That was easily on my list. There was no way we were getting through this episode without talking about this one. When this song exploded after We Didn't Start the Fire, did you guys know you had a massive hit on your hands with this one? Because at that point, We Didn't Start the Fire was everywhere, taking over schools and everything else because of the, the history nature of it. But then here comes I Go to Extremes, and that song explodes to pretty much the same level, while it charted just a few notches down from the number one hit of We Didn't Start the Fire, of course.
Well, we had recorded I Go to Extremes earlier, and when Columbia first came in to hear what the album was, and they listened to all the songs that were on Stormfront, and they listened to I Go to Extremes, and what they told Billy was, I hear your second single. We don't hear the first one yet. And then he wrote We Didn't Start the Fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing the label got it right, because that was a fantastic 1-2 punch in that instance, for sure.
It really was. Yeah, I love I go to extremes because I think I played well on it. It really sounds good sonically. And I probably, out of all the lyrics that Billy writes, you can always relate to the lyrics because, I came from Seaford, he came from Hicksville, which is one town away from each other. And so we relate to a lot of the geography that he talks about. We relate to girls that he talks about, and stuff like that. And extremes, I can relate to being that person that he is too. The guy that just doesn't know why he goes from one thing to another, like, all of a sudden like that. So I really love that song.
I couldn't agree more. And I get to follow that up now with my first pick of the night.
Okay.
And like you, Liberty, we're on the same plane because I want to punch people in the face right from the beginning as well. And a song that I would have always wanted to see second in the night because I just love coming out of that opening song and then your drum beat kicks in and it's driving and you're waiting and the bass starts coming in. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. And we get into Pressure. Following up, I Go to Extremes. That song is one of the songs that I learned how to air drum to growing up. That beat just grabs your attention, holds on to you, and that song is, I want to say, in my opinion, maybe one of the angriest songs of Billy's, but in a way that everybody can relate to. He just had a way with words. So I am following up I Go to Extremes with Pressure, and I would love to know, when you were putting that song together, was that drum beat something that you were saying, I need to get something where we are giving off this manic energy to kind of feed these lyrics?
Well, when I first heard the song, he had it, just him playing on a cassette. And I was driving with him into the studio and he played me the cassette. And before he pressed the play button, he said to me, okay, there's a part in here. Don't think of Russians going, hey, don't think of that. And it's the part that goes, hey, So, yeah, the beat needed to be like a halftime beat. And then the second half of the verse, it goes into the regular straight 4/4 because it kind of holds back when he's talking softly. You had to learn, and then when it changes the chords, from and here you are. Then it's talking about this person, like here you are. Yeah. So it takes off like that. Yeah. That was a good song. That's on my list, but it's down by the bottom because I wanted to, go through the songs and then at the end, like kind of kick it up again and then like that. So, but yeah, Pressure's on my list.
All right. Well, then I am going to throw it back to you now to pick the next song on this mix.
Okay. Sometimes with fantasy.
Love it. I will tell you right now, and this is a true story. I got in trouble as a child growing up because I sat at the phone one day trying to figure out what the number was that was being dialed at the beginning of that song.
It was the phone number of somebody Phil Ramone hated.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Easily my favorite song on Glass Houses. So I love that track. I love where you're going with this. And coming out of that, this is tough. I actually want to go newer because we're kind of rocking on this side so far.
Yeah.
And I want to go off the River of Dreams, and I'm going to go with the opening track, No Man's Land.
That's a good song. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know the River of Dreams album is very popular on the pop side of his catalog. But for the rock side, I feel like songs like No Man's Land get overlooked because of all of the beautiful ballads and pop songs that kind of permeate throughout the River of Dreams.
Right.
But this song shows he's still got the rock in him on this album, and I love it as an album opener. Now I'm curious, I know the River of Dreams tour, you guys played that a lot. Did that song kind of fall out of favor with the band after that album cycle?
Well, No Man's Land, we opened the show with No Man's Land when River of Dreams came out. Yeah. Oh, it's a good song to play. You know, I don't want to say I have a bad taste in my mouth for River of Dreams because that was the one where me, Skylar Deal, and I think Tommy Burns and whoever else, Crystal Telefer, we all went into the studio with Billy and recorded like about 8 songs for River of Dreams. And then Billy, you know, he was writing the songs, playing the piano, singing the songs. He built the studio. He was going to produce it. Too many hats. How to get rid of one of them. Picked Danny Kreutzmeyer to produce the River of Dreams album. I actually wanted Eddie Van Halen, but he was...
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was that or Stormfront. One of those two. Eddie Van Halen was kind of up for...
Wow. I try to think about how that production would have changed with him at the helm. That's fascinating.
Well, it might have been Stormfront because it's more guitar, and that's why Mick Jones was chosen. But anyway, back to No Man's Land. So we recorded like 8 songs, and maybe one day Billy will release. They're called the Boathouse tapes because we were in a boathouse that he built the studio in, and you will see how those tapes sound like Billy Joel. You know, like where this new stuff, like you say, was more pop and into a pop feel. But there were all good songs on that record. You know, really good songs. I mean, the only one that I'm on the album is Shades of Grey. And that was Billy's choice to not use the one that they did with that other band, but put us on that.
Absolutely fascinating. Well, Liberty, I am throwing it back to you to follow up No Man's Land with our next song.
Okay. I love this song, which kind of nobody really listens to it. It's from Glass Houses again, and it's called Close to the Borderline.
Yes!
Yeah.
Gotta be kidding me. Yes.
That's my favorite song on Glass Houses. It's Close to the Borderline.
That is my second to Sometimes a Fantasy growing up. Shocked that this song was not a massive hit.
Yeah.
Shocked. This song has such a groove to it. It's funky. It's fun. It's got this bravado about it. And it just fits so well. The most underrated Billy Joel song in his entire catalog, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and it's got those insane lyrics, like he's ready to snap again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really love that song. I mean, it was fun to do. At the time, we were bouncing around at different studios, and we did that one in Electric Ladyland. And what I really love is the beat and everything that goes on and stuff like that. But the guitar solos that are in the middle of the song, where Russell Jarvis plays and comes out of one speaker, and then David Brown comes out of the other speaker, kind of like the Beatles did in the end. The 3 of them played different parts on the guitar. They did that, and it was really cool.
Absolutely love that song.
It's a good one.
Yeah, following that up is tough because we've got a really rockin' set here going so far, and I think I'm going to keep that going. But I'm going to tease people by slowing it down a little bit just for the intro. And Liberty, I had the pleasure of talking with you and Gomez on Playlist Wars when we did the Songs in the Attic album. We talked about it together. And I'm going to go off of that album with my favorite song from it. And I'm going to go with Miami 2017, Seen the Lights Go Out on Broadway, recorded June 24th, 1980 at the amazing Madison Square Garden. One of my favorite songs from the catalog. Again, you start off with that beautiful opening piano, but then make no mistake about it, this song rocks and it's going to melt your face. And it's been a staple since it was first released for that very reason. I would love to ask you, because I went with the live version specifically.
Yeah.
Do you, as a part of the band, feel like the Songs in the Attic version elevates the version that was originally on Turnstiles?
You know, I had recently did an interview. The guy sent me questions, and I filled them all out and stuff like that. His favorite of that was his favorite record live was the Russian album. You know, Miami 2017.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I said, no. The Songs in the Attic album. See now, when we recorded the Turnstiles version of it, it was just me, Billy, and Doug that recorded the basic track. This is when Billy said, we can really use guitars on here. I want guitars to rock this thing out. That's when we brought in Howard and Russell. And the band that we had, Topper, became the Billy Joel band with the inclusion of Richie Cannata. So I love the Turnstiles record, Miami 2017. But like you said, Songs in the Attic. Oh my God, it really just, people talked about it for a long time, and I really hadn't listened to it for a long time. And so I went back and listened to it. It was like, oh my God, really good.
Yeah, absolute fire, that version.
Yeah. It was like, there must have been some good looking girls on the side or something like that. I don't know.
Well, we are moving on now to track 7, Liberty, and I am turning it back over to you with the next song pick.
Okay. Now I started to slow it down with While the Night is Still Young.
Ooh.
After all that frenzy, and then you hear boom, that whole thing. So that was my thing. And that was a great tune. It just happened to be on that was on the Greatest Hits record, right?
The Greatest Hits, Volume 1 and 2. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that
and Second Wind were the 2 tracks at the end.
Right. So I thought that was a bad way to put a record on an album that had all the hits already. And then you got those 2 songs. So people are like skipping over it because they want to hit hits. That's why they bought the album. But I love that song. One of my favorite lyrics that he ever wrote is in that tune. We were the same age. And when he said on the microphone, he said, young enough to still see the passionate boy that I used to be, but I'm old enough to say I got a good look at the other side. I stopped and I said, what did you say? Like, oh my God, that's exactly our age. You still are 19 years old. But yeah, there's things happening to me that I'm starting to see the other side now of what's going to happen. So I really feel close to that song. I love that song. I think it's great. I played on, they used to have these drums, Simmons. They were electronic drums. That's where you get the piece around the snare drum,
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to follow your lead and follow it up with another slower song from the catalog, but one that I've always felt was Billy's most, and I'll just say it, beautiful tune. And I'm going to go with the title track from 1983's An Innocent Man.
Oh, it's a good one.
I absolutely love what you're doing in that song because you're keeping the verses really mellow and really quiet, and you almost get this Motown-esque kind of ballad feel.
Right.
But then when he kicks it into the chorus, you build up into this massive arena rock chorus, and they play so well with each other. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this song and kind of what you guys were trying to bring to it in the studio to get that push and pull effect.
Well, that whole record was a tip of the hat to the music that we grew up listening to before we were in the bands, before anything like that. And that was kind of the Drifters type of thing. Like Up on the Roof, when this soul will stop. Yeah. So getting to that point, I am the innocent man. This is when he first meets Crispy Brinkley too. Now, what Motown didn't have that Billy did, but Billy wrote great bridges to the songs. So when he gets to the bridge, then it's like, bam, we're really in it. And then all of a sudden it just stops. And it goes back to that. I love that. Peaking like that and then just stopping and going right back to where you started from.
Yes. And I will call them iconic finger snaps in the song because they are just so well placed and so musical and so rhythmic. And so they're simple, but they're so effective in those quiet parts of the song.
Yeah, they're really good. That was a good song. But that whole album was a tip of the hat to, Uptown Girl was a tip of the hat to the Four Seasons for the longest time to the what was the name of that band that did So Much in Love?
The Times?
The Times, yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah, all that stuff. I have a couple of Innocent Man songs on my list.
Well, you're up
Why don't
now
you-
for track 9 on side A, so turn it over to you.
Okay, let's see. You just had Innocent Man. Now, I think that the see, I have the longest time on the list, but it's a great opener for the record, Innocent Man, which is Easy Money.
Ooh, yeah.
Easy Money is so good. I'll tell you why. That song we recorded, it was me, Doug, Russell and David, Cornell Dupree. Oh no, Eric Gale was playing guitar. Richard Key was playing piano. Leon Pendarvis was playing Hammond organ. There was an entire horn section, about 4 background singers, and Billy was in a sound booth by himself just singing. And we recorded that entire track all at the same time.
Whoa.
It was the only time we did something like that. That was exciting, to be with these major studio musicians and our little band, and Billy just doing whatever he wanted in the studio because he didn't have to worry about the piano or anything like that.
Wow. That is a fantastic story. I did not know that about that one.
Yeah,
I love it.
That was a good song. Yeah.
Well, I get the honor of closing out side A of our mixtape right now, and
Okay.
it's been a fantastic one, but I feel like we haven't shown 1977's The Stranger any love, so I want to go back to that album to close us out, and I am going to go with what I consider one of the reasons I enjoy long songs,
Okay.
and that is Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. It is obviously one of the live staples, one of the biggest songs for the band to play live. The fact that this wasn't a #1 single for years boggles my mind. It was so perfect. And knowing that this is an ode to the second half of Abbey Road, this is the song that got me to go down the Beatles rabbit hole. Because I listened to Billy Joel long before I listened to the Beatles during my age grade of where I am. And songs like Scenes from an Italian Restaurant opened my world to bands like the Beatles, to listen to the second half of Abbey Road.
Right.
And I would love to hear how this song kind of came together in the studio for you guys. Was this written? Did Billy come in and basically say, okay, I've got all these parts and we're going to do them this way? Or how did you guys kind of map this song out in the studio?
Well, first of all, it couldn't be a thing. It was too long. The song is 7 minutes and something seconds, right?
Oh, 100%. But that doesn't take away from the fact of how great the song is.
Okay. When we were on the road for the Turnstiles album, we were already doing the Brenda and Eddie part. So now I know we played Scenes from the Italian Restaurant at Carnegie Hall, but like we would do sound check and we'd be playing Brenda and Eddie. And then he would say like, oh, I've come up with this other part. I'm going to make this, and then he'd come up with the and the story built into from sitting across from somebody that you knew years ago, and you probably had a relationship with them, and you're telling them everything you know about these people that both of you used to know, but haven't seen in a while, but you just heard about that, So it's really a complete story from the beginning to middle to the end, all the words with the Village Green, all that kind of stuff. I know all that on Long Island, I know all that stuff, all about that, I've heard so many reviewers when we used to do it live when it first came out, got it wrong. The best they could do was pick up the pieces. That's what it's supposed to be. One reviewer said the best they could do was make some kind of pizzas or something like that. Yeah, silly things like that.
Well, there you have it, folks. Side A of our ultimate Billy Joel mixtape. We kicked things off with I Go to Extremes, followed it up with Pressure, Sometimes a Fantasy, No Man's Land, Close to the Borderline, Miami 2017, Seen the Lights Go Out on Broadway from Songs in the Attic, While the Night is Still Young, An Innocent Man, Easy Money, and Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. make sure to head over to myweeklymixtape.com and visit the Songs of Billy Joel page to listen to all these songs via the playlist that's embedded over there. Now, before we flip the tape over and do side 2, Liberty, I do have a few intermission questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
The first one, outside of your work with Billy Joel, you've recorded with some other amazing artists such as Meatloaf, Rick Wakeman of Yes, Carly Simon, Mick Jones of Foreigner, and Karen Carpenter, just to name a few. If you had to choose maybe a pair of studio songs, a 45 if you will, side A and side B, of songs that really resonate with you from outside of Billy Joel's catalog, what would they be and why?
Well, I think there's a song that I did with John Hiatt called Snake Charmer. That
Love John Hiatt.
I really like this song because it's almost like I'm playing like John Bonham, that kind of power, just that boom, boom, that kind of thing. And it's really cool, the song. That would be one side. And the other side, I guess, would have to be Rock and Roll and Brew on the Meatloaf album.
Yeah.
Which is really good. Cher sings on that one too. And that was pretty cool. Either that or A Beautiful Night that we recorded with Paul McCartney that came out on his Flaming Pie box set. So on that, that was exciting. Yeah, that was a thrill of a lifetime.
Is that a moment where you're sitting there in the studio thinking to yourself, how the hell did I wind up here?
Dude, when he walked in the room, I all the way in, I'm driving in there, Phil Ramon Warner was there early, set up. And all the way, I'm thinking, what the hell's he want with me? What does he want with me? He didn't even know who I am. First one to walk in the room is Linda, and she points right at me, and she goes, "Oh, I know who you are. We've been watching your videos." Like, what? And when he walked in, he just said hi to everybody and shook my hand, and I kind of backed out of the studio and just like it was the angel and devil on each shoulder. And one was saying like, "Come on, Limp, he's just a musician like you are." And the other was going, "Oh, no, he's not. He's a Beatle, man." And it's funny, in the studio, we did 2 songs. And in the middle of the song, between the 2 songs, we took a break for lunch. And we were talking about children and stuff like that, and music and stuff. All I wanted to hear him say was the Beatles, because they say it so differently. We say the Beatles. He says the Beatles, like that kind of thing. He kept calling them the other band. When I was with the other band, what band is that? Oh.
You should have, just which band if you speak of? Would this be Wings? Maybe I don't know.
Played with somebody else.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, this other question I have for you is a Billy Joel question that you might be the only person to know the answer to this one. I have asked every fellow music podcaster. I've looked at every booklet to find this information. I've asked other Billy Joel podcasts about this. Nobody knows the answer.
My God, you got me nervous now.
In 1988, Billy performed a song for the Oliver and Company soundtrack called Why Should I Worry?
Yes.
It was written by Dan Hartman and Charlie Midnight.
Yes.
And he was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song from this. It wasn't written by Billy.
No.
But did you guys play on that song, or was that a Disney house band, so to speak?
That was a totally different band. But the funny thing is, Billy sat there. I was sitting next to him on the piano bench. We were recording, I believe, the Bridge album at the time. And I was sitting on the piano bench next to him. And somebody came in and said, they want you to write a song for the Oliver. What was he, Oliver?
He was Dodger.
He was the Artful Dodger. They want you to write. And he just turned and looked at me and said, "You write it." I went, "Okay." And I wrote a song called "I'm the Greatest." It's about he can jump into bed before the light turns out. He can do all these things, that makes him the greatest, And we actually recorded it with the band. And Billy sang it and everything like that. But I think they wanted to go with a more famous songwriter like Dan Hartman. So mine got kind of pushed to the side, but Billy recorded it and everything.
Is this a song is just sitting in the vaults waiting to be
In
released?
In the vault with the Boathouse tapes. Yeah, it's all in the vault.
Well, I think I speak on behalf of everybody when I say we need to hear these things.
I'm the greatest, yeah.
Well, let's now flip things over and get started with side 2. Now, side 2, I get to kick things off, and Liberty, you'll be following it up.
Okay.
We talked about this album very briefly earlier, and one of the mixtapers chimed in with this song. And for me, if I'm starting a side, there's only one song I could start with. And growing up, the concert cassette was one of my first cassettes that I purchased with my own money. That was the Russia concert album.
Right.
And that live version of Angry Young Man just melts my speakers for many, many years. Yes, I know I'm going for a second live cut, but as much as I love the version from Turnstiles, this version is just 150 miles an hour. It's so amazing, and it is up there with some of my favorite Billy Joel live moments ever. So I'm going to go with that version of Angry Young Man, and I would love to know, because I've watched that concert countless times. You're in this arena, everybody's sitting, and you come out and kind of kick things off with this song, and everyone's in their seats with their hands folded. What was that moment like?
Well, we started the song, right? Billy started. Now, on the record, you could hear him started at a certain tempo. And as soon as I click in, it goes to a much faster tempo. Billy always hated me for that. He was always like, slow down, come on. I'm like, no, we're going for it. But I remember him, we're kind of in the middle of the song, and those people are just sitting there because they weren't allowed to get up. They weren't allowed to stand up. And when they were lighting the show so they could film it better, if somebody was standing, the security, which was the soldiers, would come over and just push them back in their seats. So I remember him looking at me. He's playing the piano. We're playing Angry Young Man, and he looks at me and goes, "We're dead. We're dead." Then he finally, as the show went on, he finally heard cheering from the back. You had to be a part of the Communist Party to get tickets to the first couple of shows. When he heard the cheering from the back, he told the people in the front, he said, "It's going to get louder. This is how loud we play at home. This is what it's like being in the States, and this is what you're seeing. If you don't like it, you should move to the back where it's not as loud. And while you're back there, give the kids back there the tickets to come up front. Swap tickets." And once they did that, it was like, this is great. By the end of our 6 shows, right, 3 in Moscow, 3 in Leningrad, they pushed our stage back an entire foot. They were rocking so much. I mean, the stage that we were on, they pushed it back an entire foot.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was great the way it built from like we're dead to like, wow, we succeeded at that.
Well, my question for you is, because Turnstiles was the first album that you played on with the band.
Yeah.
So obviously the band was still coming into their form on that version. Do you feel the song was better showcased in a live setting than on the studio version?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because you're more relaxed. It's just more fun to play, and then you develop all those visual things that you do, like smacking the cymbals this way, and Billy standing up and kicking the piano over, and, then it gets exciting, But in the studio, it was done in 3 parts. We did the beginning, then we stopped, then we did "There's a Place in the World for the Angry Young Man." We did that, and then we did the end, and then put them together. Recording-wise, it was easier to do it that way, to go from the beginning part into the verse, because on the record, you can't hear the drums playing. You just hear which, by the way, I did on Billy's chest, because we were listening back, and he goes, "I want something like this." And we took him out. I laid him on chairs. I put a mic on his chest, and I went on his chest.
Really?
Yeah, and then overdubbed some brushes to give it a little higher tone.
Wow, that is so cool. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Recording magic at its finest. Well, coming out of Angry Young Man, Liberty, I throw it back to you now to pick our next song.
Okay, I'm going to go with Allentown.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Allentown. I mean, it was Levittown for a long time, and that's all he had for years. Well, we're living here in Levittown. And then, what are they doing? They're not doing anything. But, yeah, Allentown, it's a good song. You know, it's another opener for the an album, right? Another curtain starts with Allentown. Great with the whistle. And there's the pile driver in that, you know. Well, I doubled the pile driver. We had these 2 cases of percussion stuff, maracas, tambourines, all the bells and whistles that you use to overdub. And to get that, they mic'd me. I went out with the 2 cases, and I had to jump in the air and land at the right time. What? You know, one thing is that after we got done with it, you know, a couple of takes to get it right, you open the case, it was like sawdust was in there. Everything was smashed.
So I have to ask, when you guys played it live, was there like a trigger in the background that was including those hits?
Yeah, like Dave LeBolt was on the Denali Curtain tour. He played the second keyboard, and yeah, he had that that he would trigger.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, coming out of that song, I want to go with something where it kind of takes us on a little bit of a different journey, but it's a song that I feel it just stands out in the Billy Joel catalog, and I'd be remiss not to include it. And the drums are very tribal in this song, and that's something where I think it does stick out for me. And I'm going to go off of the Stormfront album, and we're going to lead it off with the amazing Itzhak Perlman, and I'm going to go with the Downeaster Alexa.
As you were talking, I wrote that down, Downeaster Alexa. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's a good one. We were in the studio, we had the song, and he said, I want this to be, it's about my boat, about the boat. I want this to be about a boat. So I immediately went to like a Jimmy Buffett kind of like, put it, and he went, no, wrong color water. He says it's a fishing boat, you know. So I had to come up with something that would kind of mimic the fishing boat. Everybody knows that a horse is, you do that on drums. A train is, right?
Yes.
I had to come up with something that sounded like a boat. So, you know, you're going over these gigantic waves, right? And you're crashing down on the other side, which is a boom, right? But when I was growing up on Long Island, I lived in this little sea town called Seaford, and had canals in it. And when the fishermen would go out really early in the morning, the boats had diesel engines, and they would have to putt out in the canals, and you could hear them go, the things were never steady. So that, you know, and the engine. But with the time, so with the toms, it was like going over the waves, and then put time in it with the snare drum to hit, and it became this boat that he could ride on. Bam, bam, bam. Like almost, have you seen the White Wow?
The idea to bring Itzhak Perlman into the fold for that recording, was that something that the label, was that Billy's thought? Was that?
Needed a fiddle, you know, so why not get Itzhak Perlman? I guess they were living in the same building or something like that. And so he did it, but there was some kind of arrangement that it didn't happen, so they couldn't use his name. That's why it says a different name on there.
He's credited as world-famous incognito violinist.
That's it.
Well, Liberty, coming out of the Downeaster Alexa, I turn it over to you now. World-famous, hopefully not incognito drummer.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to something up now. Let's go right into Zanzibar.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah, Zanzibar. One of my favorite tunes. You know, it's funny. with the band, the Lords of the Second Street that I play with now, we got Dan Orlando who does the Billy part and the other guys to enhance the band. Me, Rich Canada, and Russell Jabbers. We do all these songs, Zanzibar and Angry on Dan. And Zanzibar is one of my favorites to play because we whip into that jazz part.
Yeah.
And I can see people like that know the song thinking like, okay, we're going to see, can they do that jazz part? Can they do it? You know, and when we pull it off. And the part that's great about it too is like TikTok, I think it is. The kids on TikTok, the younger people, they were doing this dance to, I got the old man's car. I got a jazz guitar. And sometimes you'll see young, like they must be in their teens or something like that. And they're sitting listening to the song. And they go, and then all of a sudden it goes to that part and you can see them hit each other. Like, that's it. That's the one, you know.
Such a great song.
It's a great song. And, you know, it didn't have the jazz part. It wasn't until he wrote the words, I've got a jazz guitar. Then when it came to a break, it was like, oh, well, there could be a jazz part in here. Why it's a jazz trumpet, not a jazz guitar, I don't know. But that's a famous guy playing the trumpet, Freddie Hubbard.
Yeah, yeah. And it's again, another song that really sticks out in the catalog.
Yeah.
That's when you try to pinpoint what kind of artist is Billy Joel, that's kind of the beauty of what I love about his music so much, because he's a rock artist, yes, but he's also a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
He's also a jazz musician. He's also, you know I said tribal before, but I for lack of a better term, the vibe you were going for in the Downeaster Alexa, that is hard to describe that.
Right.
You can't just say that's a rock song.
No.
Well, I call it tribal. It's like a world music. And he does them all with the band, obviously, so well that it's kind of hard to pinpoint him to one genre.
Yeah. And there's a funny part in Zanzibar. Before the first solo, when Freddie Hubbard does first solo, I go from sticks to brushes. And if you listen, turn your stereo up real loud, you can hear me put the sticks down and pick up the brushes you hear on the floor tom, because I laid them on the floor tom.
Ooh, I'm going to have to listen back to that one.
Yeah, you can hear it.
All right.
But that was a cool song to play. I mean, that was a lot of fun to play. Yeah, that took a lot of concentration to different parts.
Well, I'm hoping that the song that I'm going to follow up Zanzibar with is another one that maybe you had fun to play, because on the Songs in the Attic album, when you played this July 10th, 1980 at Toad's Place in New Haven, Connecticut, sure as heck sounded like you were having fun. And I'm going to go with Los Angelinos from Songs in the Attic.
Yeah, great song.
That song is just funky. That's the way I describe it. I like the version on Street Life Serenade, but you guys bring this funk on the Songs in the Attic version that just is so alive and so invigorating. And it's another song that sticks out when you're listening to the catalog. And I know it's a little bit of a deeper cut, but damn, it's a good one.
But we were just doing turnstiles. We only owned turnstiles. We were doing all the other songs that Billy had out. And there is a tape of, I think it's Los Angelinos. Don't we do it at Toad's Place?
That's the version on Songs in the Attic,
right.
Toad's Place.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good. Worst Comes to Worst is another one. There's an audio tape of Worst Comes to Worst from a concert, I think, at CW Post. And oh my God, Richie Canada said it to me. And I said, who is this kid playing drums? It was me, obviously, but it was like, oh my God, that was really good. No one, sometimes you listen back and I think to myself, no wonder he was so popular. Look at what we had. Look at what we had.
It was lightning in a bottle. The band really just gelled.
Well, we had been playing together for years before we got with Billy,
Definitely.
Yeah, it was magic. It was definitely magic.
Well, coming out of Los Angelinos, I would love to hear where you're going to head next, because we are halfway through side 2 here.
Well, you know what song I really love off the Bridge album? Code of Silence.
Ooh.
Yeah. Code of Silence. One of the only songs where Billy didn't write the lyric.
Yes, yes.
Cyndi Lauper. Another time he was jammed and it was like he couldn't get the lyrics to it. And Cyndi came into the studio And Cindy goes, "Oh, I'll write them for you." We went, "Okay." She wrote some great lyrics. Those are great lyrics about, having family secrets and you're not allowed to, you've got a code of silence you're not allowed to talk about,
Yeah, yeah.
Could be anything, abuse, could be alcohol, could be, don't ever talk about it. Yeah.
Now, is that something that was easy for Billy to kind of give up that part of the process?
Well, I think we were basically almost done with the record. And it was just that, Billy always said it's hard. He used to get migraines after he finished writing songs for an album, because it's a strain. You're under pressure. It's not like you see these young kids that write songs and it's like, well, we got 150 songs. Yeah, and you put out your first album and then they want the next one, It's like, oh my God, I got to do this again. Like, what's his name there from Seinfeld when they found out they were going to pick up another season and he had to write another 10 more. Larry David was like, oh, I can't do this, I like that song.
What a great
song.
song.
It's a great
Yeah.
harmonica in the beginning too. That's not Billy.
That's not.
No, some guy, a Broadway guy that played on Broadway.
Because Billy plays harmonica. We all know that from Piano Man.
He does. He plays more bluesy type of harmonica.
Yeah.
But this guy was like the real deal.
Yeah. Wow. Coming out of that, I'm scrolling through the albums. I think I want to go back to the Nylon Curtain one more time.
Okay.
It's a song that means a lot to me. It's a song that I had the good fortune of seeing Billy in the 90s with my parents, and my father was a Vietnam veteran.
No.
And seeing the look on his face when the band performed Goodnight Saigon is something that I'll never forget. He stood at attention the whole song, singing, and I could just feel that moment. I'm feeling it right now just talking about it. And I don't think I could do a Billy Joel mixtape without including that, because for me as a personal thing and knowing my father said he nailed it with this one lyrically. This is what I went through. If you ever want to know what I went through when I was in Vietnam, this song tells you that story. And to me, that even though I've never met Billy Joel, my father's never met Billy Joel, just knowing that he was able to tell my father's story.
Yeah.
Without knowing him, it's so special to me.
Yeah.
So I am going to go with Goodnight Saigon there.
Well, we being in the band and over all those years, we have a connection, a relationship with people that we never met, and someone like your father, when we hear stories like that, how moved he was by something like that, it's like really touching, because you're always thinking about like, did we do satisfaction to the song? Did we make any mistakes? Like you hear about U2, the song Pride in the Name of Love, and you find out that Bono was wrong on the date that he talks about when Martin Luther King was shot. And you hear about that all the time. It's like, oh, how did he make that mistake? So Saigon, Goodnight Saigon was, it actually was for the album before he had the idea, but it was more like a World War II kind of thing, which wasn't going well at all, So then when he came in and they had this whole thing about Vietnam, now we're all at that age where, I went for my draft physical when I was 19, and I had written in my book how many, like 300 and something guys got killed that day. So we all felt guilt of why didn't we go? Why did somebody else? Why did the guy next to me go and I didn't? Because it was just a horrible war, just a horrible war.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that comes through, that we were really honest about what we're saying, and his lyric is just unbelievable. We'll all go down together. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And then we were all singing it in the studio once, and I just yelled, "You're all right, Sarge." You can hear it if you listen real closely towards the end.
My father always told me there were two songs that bring him back to Vietnam, and it's Goodnight Saigon and We Got to Get Out of This Place by the Animals.
Yeah. Great job. Great song. Wow. Big.
Well, coming out of that, I am turning it over to you because we have a few songs left here.
Okay. Now, how many songs we got left?
We have 3. You have 2 songs left, and I only have 1.
Okay, then I'm going to go with this next song, Awful Lana.
Nice. Why was that not a single in the United States?
Okay.
Why was that only released in the UK?
I have no idea.
I flabbergasted about that
I have
one.
no idea. All I know is that before we went in to do the Glass Houses record, we were just coming off of 52nd Street, right? I mean, we're in Europe touring. And I went to see this band, and I told Billy, I said, you have got to hear this band. They are changing the sound of things. And I think Billy got a little shaken by it. And the band was The Police that I went to see.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that he found a way to do that punk youth kind of music, but keep the Billy in it. You know, because now we're 30 years old or older. And these guys that are coming out now are in their 20s and, you know. But I think he found it like in Awful Lana, you know. So that turned out to be a good one.
Now, as a drummer, being a person who's seen The Police, I'm sure there's a fondness for Stuart Copeland's style of drumming as well.
Oh, I love Stuart Copeland. See, to me, there's drummers that create these new things. And Stuart Copeland, to me, is like Danny Serafin was with Chicago.
Yeah.
Stuart
Yeah.
Copeland took rock and reggae and made it a sound, where Danny Serafin took rock and jazz and created this new sound, which is really cool. I think that's great. You know, the two of them.
That first Chicago Transit Authority album.
Oh, yeah.
Introduction, like that blew my mind the first time I heard that, even as a kid, because I was like, what am I listening to?
Right.
Because you couldn't, as a child, I couldn't describe Chicago to somebody.
Right.
I couldn't say it's a rock song because there was this horn section and it was funky and it was jazzy and it was confusing to my little mind.
Right.
And now I look back and I just listened to that album with such awe because of the creativity that went into taking 2 different styles and kind of merging them together to make this new sound.
Well, I think that is what kind of ruined music, was that everything had to be pigeonholed. Like, what kind of music is it? Well, something you've never heard before. You know, I mean, back then in the 60s and stuff like that, we were the generation that wanted change. But if something changed, we panicked about it. You know, tried to fight it. You know, like, what is that? What is that? I can't get it in my head. I need a name of it. You know, no, like you first heard Jimi Hendrix, was like, what is that? You know.
And that's what I feel like is almost missing from modern music. Everybody's trying to emulate a sound that's been heard before, or at least that's what becomes popular. The people that are out there really pushing boundaries are nowhere near the top of the charts.
No.
And you really have to dig deep to find people that are truly innovating music. And that's kind of why I am such a music nerd, doing a show like this, talking with different musicians I admire and trying to introduce people to music that might be outside of their comfort zone, because there is so much amazing music out there that people just aren't getting exposed. There's no Spotify algorithm that's going to show people something that is truly game-changing.
Right.
And that's a shame.
A great band will have the reputation of either you love them or you hate them. That's a great band, because they're doing something so different that you can't deal with it, and you don't want to. You don't have the musical love to really look into what they're doing, or you love them because they change something so much that you can identify their sound, even if you don't know the song that just comes on. Oh, that's Chicago. That's Chicago. I can hear it, you know, like that.
Definitely.
And, you know, with all these songs that we're listening today, I mean, we listen to everything. We listen to everything. You take from here, take from there, take from, you know, leave a tender moment alone. For me, the drum part that I'm playing, it's like a Burt Bacharach song, you know? So you had to know all these stuff, because, you know, I just rolled names around in the studio too, like, oh, I want this to sound like like Ringo did on Rain, or I want this to sound like the studio guy that played in with Burt Bacharach, or I want this to sound. And you got to know all that stuff, especially with a guy like Billy, because he writes like that. But you
Definitely.
maintain your own style, your vibe, and it becomes then your thing. It moves into your thing.
Well, I have one song left, and this is ridiculous for me right now because there are so many songs that I'm looking at that aren't included on this list. But I just have to go with one that it's a major hit. I want to go back to the first album you ever played on, which was Turnstiles. And I want to go with a song that truly means a lot to me because when I was in radio, I worked through 9/11 in New York in radio at the time in the city. And there was a few days that we were locked out of New York. And when we got back to the station, we were kind of working these crazy 3 and 4 day shifts that would just be kind of sleeping on the floor because there was a lack of people in the studios and it was just completely different time. Well, about a month, maybe a month and a half later, we were still starting to ease back into things. And my buddy Jay and I went to a karaoke bar and everybody was just trying to blow off a little steam and sing some songs. And one of my favorite songs to sing by Billy Joel prior to September 11th was New York State of Mind. I didn't think about what was happening when I put that ticket in. I just did because I wanted to sing the song.
Right.
And as I started it, there was like a hush that came over the room. And at the end, this tiny little bar, I'll never forget this, just every person in the room was just, I put the mic down and the whole room was just singing it arm in arm and bringing people together in such a beautiful way. And my old Turnstiles co-host, Jay Sweet, was there with me, and we talk about this moment all the time. Just shows how powerful Billy Joel's music is to people, especially from this area. And to me, there are a lot of songs that are New York songs. You think of Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z, you think New York, New York by Frank Sinatra, but it always comes back to New York State of Mind for me. And that is what my last pick of the night will be, realizing I'm leaving so many songs off. But I would love to know, because this was your first album recording with Billy Joel. Did you realize what this song was going to become when you were recording? Did you realize the stratospheric heights that this song would reach, even if we are just talking about the New York and tri-state area?
No, we didn't, because it was such a ballad. It's almost like an old kind of Sinatra, that kind of ballad. So like, it was really cool to play it. And the lyrics really meant a lot. But to us back then, it was about Billy returning to New York and all the things that he missed about New York. It didn't take hold until like 9/11 and all of that kind of stuff about how important New York is to people and how, it's the center of the world. It really is the center of the world. And, Richie Cannata has the best story about it, because when he came in to the studio and he brought a saxophone, and we were just finishing up Angry Young Man, and he heard Angry Young Man, and he said, I don't know, what am I going to do in this? Because it's an Angry Young Man. And then Billy said, I want you to play sax on this song. And he played him the basic track of New York State of Mind. And that's when Richie knew what he had to do in that song. And when the COVID hit, and they did that show at Central Park, the big show that there was going to be the comeback, New York was still alive again. Richie played that solo with the Philharmonic.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how big that song became. I mean, you really can't get bigger than that song as far as the songwriter goes. It's like, I mean, Paul McCartney said if he wrote any of Billy Joel's songs, he would have loved to have written Just the Way You Are. But I think New York State of Mind is like, it's an anthem,
It truly, truly is. Well, Liberty, you got to kick off the festivities this evening with the first song on side A,
Yeah.
and you get to take us home with the last song of the night, the last song on side B, summing up this mixtape. No pressure at all.
The only reason why I'm picking this song is because out of all the Billy Joel songs, it is my favorite song. Favorite, because I think we played the hell out of it. The intention of having a sound and a style of another band that we really loved is on it, you know. So the song I have to pick at the end is Laura from the Nylon Curtain.
Wow.
Yeah. Close it out with Laura, which isn't quite a ballad, but, you know, and it rocks just like the other song you were talking about. It's not quite a ballad, but, you know, Laura.
Wow, I love that pick. That's a nice deep pick. Again, I have to ask, like I've said a couple of times tonight, why wasn't that a massive single for the band? It defies my imagination.
Well, you got an album that has Allentown, Pressure, Room of Our Own. What else is on that record?
Good Night Saigon we talked about before. Yeah.
It's like the whole album was kind of a tip of the hat to the Beatles, of course. And Laura, sometimes when the guitar solo does, I have to think to myself, am I listening to a Beatles song or is this us? You know?
Yeah.
That's how I even did the Ringo, boom, 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 you know, that fill that he does all the time. That album is my favorite album of all of them, too. There's some great stuff on that record.
And I think that's considerably one of his most underrated albums. Even though there were hits on it, I feel like as a whole, people automatically jump to The Stranger. They automatically jump to Glass Houses, 52nd Street. And the Nylon Curtain gets like overlooked when it shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, Scandinavian Skies, so great. That
massive.
That's like a Beatles tune, you know. The strings and everything.
And then going back to the concert album we were talking about earlier, one of my favorite covers I've ever heard the band play was Back in the USSR from that Russian concert. How much fun was actually playing a Beatles song in Russia, back in the USSR?
Playing a Beatles song before the Beatle could play it. We played it before McCartney played it in Russia.
Yes.
Yeah, we played Russia when the wall was still up. He went after the wall came down. It was the perfect song to play. I mean, come on. And they knew it. You know, the Russian people, they weren't allowed to listen to rock and roll and nothing like that. The way they used to get music was one guy, they would smuggle in a tape. So say they smuggle in the White Album, right? And they have these boom boxes. Maybe about 10 or 20 guys would have their boom boxes and they would put blank tapes in each one. And the one guy that has the original tape, now they're in a forest somewhere where nobody else could see them or hear them. He drops his tape in. They press record and he presses play. And that's how the tapes got around in Russia. Or they would cut them to X-rays, you know, because you can record on an X-ray. Somehow, I don't know how to do it, but I've seen that too in Russia. So they knew back in the USSR.
So there's no joking around when they say it's a Russian bootleg.
No joke. That was the only way they can hear music.
Wow.
Only way. So they really didn't know much about Billy when we went there. He was billed as an American poet that was coming over. And they only had like 3 stations, or 2 TV stations. And someone would be in the middle of watching their favorite show on that station, and all of a sudden, boom, one of our videos would show up in the middle of that show.
Well, he is an American poet, so they didn't lie.
Yes, he is. And you talk about influences from other bands and stuff like that. There was this thing called the musical ring that Billy did. It was actually set up like a boxing ring, and they would take local rock musicians, you know, that were in the party or whatever, but they were rock musicians. And the commentator would tear them down, like almost to embarrass them that they're playing rock and roll music. Well, Billy did it. He sat in there and he played a Russian classical piece. And he also I forget the name of the piece, but he also inserted the part that the Russians had taken out. He did that too.
Really?
He was so good on the show that after we left, they discontinued the show. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, before I go through side B, I'm going to address the elephant in the room just because there are probably some Billy Joel fans that are sitting there saying, how the hell did you guys get through 20 songs and not talk about it? So just to talk about the song, because I would feel like it would be a criminal not to for the people that love the song so much. What are your thoughts on Piano Man? Where does that sit for you? Because obviously they call Billy Joel the Piano Man. It's the song you've probably played more than any other Billy Joel song. So does it suffer from overkill?
You know, we used to play it at the end of a show or something like that, Billy. And I used to be playing the drums, and I just would look over to him and go, I can't believe you wrote this shit. I mean, I remember, before we were in the band, way before we were in the band, hearing the song on the radio and thinking like, yeah, oh, look, Billy Joel from the Hassles. He's got a record out now. It's nice, I mean, I remember seeing him go to Shea Stadium and watching the ball game on TV. And the crowd found out that he was there. And they started to sing Piano Man. This was like maybe 2 years ago. And I remember calling Richie and saying like, it was so great to see Billy proud and up there. But you got to think of something that if it wasn't for the Stranger and 52nd Street and Glass Houses and Alan Kurt, nobody be singing Piano Man these days. You know what I mean?
Very
I would have
true,
been like there and then gone.
Very true.
We kept it alive. We kept it alive for him. I think even he got bored with the song. That's why the crowd sings that. Give us a song, How many times can you sing it?
I know that is the one, I guess. But, even now on the current tours, it's kind of earlier in the night. He doesn't close with it, which when I saw you with the band back in the 90s, many times, that was always the last song of the night.
Closer. Yeah, we, the Lords of 52nd Street, we do it too, to close with Piano Man. The people wait for it. They know it's there. They know it's got to be on the set list. You have to do it. There's certain songs you have to do. That's why they're not on this list.
There you go.
Oh, Good Die Young, Still Rock and Roll with Me. Those are songs you have to do. You may be right. Say Goodbye to Hollywood was a great one.
Oh, Say Goodbye to Hollywood's amazing.
I'm surprised that you didn't bring that one up because I thought of it, but I thought, he's going to.
Oh, it's on my list. It's just we didn't get there for some reason, but I think we got a lot of fantastic stuff. Side B consists of Prelude, Angry Young Man from the concert album, Allentown, the Downeaster Alexa, Zanzibar, Los Angelinos from Songs in the Attic, Code of Silence, Goodnight Saigon, All for Lena, New York State of Mind, and Laura. Head over to the Ultimate Songs of Billy Joel page at myweeklymixtape.com to hear the entire mixtape we have created tonight via the embedded playlist. Liberty, I know you're busy right now with the Lords of 52nd Street. What does 2023 have in store for the Lords?
A whole bunch of gigs that are coming up. We're just in Florida. So we're playing a lot. And my other band, the Slim Kings, we're playing out the house drummer at Richie Cannata's studio. And where people come in, they want that Billy Joel drum sound. I get the call, go out to Cove City and play out there. So still a lot of playing going on. I mean, we're coming out of the COVID, like slowly, but it's really starting to happen now. It's all good.
Well, the door will always be open, Liberty, anytime you want to come back on the show and do a volume 2 to this, because there are so many songs we left off the table tonight.
Yes, we did. It's funny because I'm looking at my list too, and so how many that we didn't even touch. I mean, you love songs like you said, your dad, you remember that. Now, the way that song touched him, imagine that all these songs have that same feeling to me of being there and getting the phone call in the middle of the night and like, what do you think of this? And I'm telling them, it's okay, you know. Oh, I knew you were going to say that. And he hangs on the phone and writes something different, you know. But all these songs, I mean, Leningrad, we went. I sat next to him who wrote the song, you know. And it was like, yeah, that's exactly what it was like to go there, you know. He just has a way of being able to tell that story that you want to tell, whether it's about something you did or some girl that you loved, or you can do it in 2.5 minutes, you know.
Well, Liberty, I think I'm putting it lightly when I say what an honor and a pleasure it was to have you on My Weekly Mixtape tonight. Thank you so much again for joining me.
Well, thanks for the invite, Brian. This has been great.
Remember, Mixtapers, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. If you want to support the show, please consider becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.